Try, hope they stay awake.
When is the first Monday?
We do it all.
It was kind of convenient, everybody would just call me and say, "Son, by the office." Right there.
Both feel like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I could alert you. Excuse me.
I don't.
No problem. That's an easy one. This is why we have to have nice things.
Just sit for.
Never can't get around. Yeah.
Bigger. You must be so late. They have to do things. Oh, they're teasing on it. Weird. That's right.
I'm only got through two. My says I'm this. Just beeps at me.
Yeah, you need it. Okay.
You're going to introduce the subject.
Yeah, my brain like.
I get a few things on this, well, what you guys go first. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Very cute. Oh, mine came on. I saw it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we're in business.
All right, we'll call the Grand Forks County Commission meeting from order. Today is November 21st, 2023. And we will, all the commissioners are present and are here today. Always a pleasure to see Commissioner Peach. Yeah. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I've got, everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? I'll move. So moved by Commissioner Rusted. Second,
I'll second.
Commissioner Pete seconds. All those in favor, approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion is carried. Approval of the order of agenda. Anybody wish to have anything added? All right, do I have a motion to approve the order of agenda? So moved by Commissioner Engen, second by Commissioner Rusted. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. The approval of consent agenda, bills, employee status changes, overtime. Anybody wish anything pulled they'd like to look at? If not, I would entertain motion to approve. So moved by Commissioner Rusted,
Second.
second by Commissioner Peach. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried. Brady Martz is up.
All right. So my first run through here, appreciate choosing Brady Martz and I think I'll go through the highlights unless anybody wants me to read the whole thing today. Whole thing, yeah.
What's for breakfast?
Couple hours here. No, so what I'll do is I tend to go through things relatively quick. If there are questions, feel free to slow me down and ask as you have them. Otherwise, I'll open up the questions at the end of the audit as well. And so there's two reports that everybody should have. One's a management report, and I'll start with that. And what this is, this is a two-part report. First thing that it contains is, as we go through the audits, there are things that we come across that might be things we call immaterial or best practices. And the first part of this report kind of summarizes comments that we have that would be considered best practices. And so if you look on page 2, we do have one comment in there about reviewing federal reports prior to their submission. So when we get into the audit report, we do have a comment on some reports, and this is just kind of a best practice to say, you know, you might catch an error after you submit it, but then you have to go through the hassle of going and resubmitting it. So our recommendation is when a report, especially if it's federal, is required to review that before it gets submitted. So that's the only best practice we had. And I think one of the things too is a new audit, usually you end up finding a lot of these things. And so the fact that there's only one, and that if we get a new report, it's a lot less findings too. So I think things are being improved and taken serious and controlled better too. So compared to the prior audit. The second part of this report is the audit committee letter. This is communication with those charged with governance at the end of the audit. And so what this report is meant to do is to kind of indicate some highlights of the audit process itself. And you'll notice one thing that's changed in the current year is related to a new accounting standard for leases. And so historically in the past, there's been two separate types of leases, one called an operating lease, one called a capital lease. And the accounting for them was different. So the capital leases, you would set it up like a fixed asset, depreciate it, and you'd have the debt up the books, and those would kind of offset things like equipment, if you some kind of big machinery, those kind of things typically were done that way. There's also a thing called operating leases, which would be something that you maybe wouldn't ever own at the end of the lease. Leasing like buildings, land, copiers, and those kind of things were never set up on the financial statements. Those are just footnoted in the back. And so now they kind of revamped everything and lumped everything into something just called leases. And they're basically all accounted for the same way. They're put on your statement of deposition. There's an asset or a right to use asset and amortization and a liability for the piece that has been paid. So that's really the major change that's occurred for this year. For FY 2023, there will be another similar standard known as subscription-based IT arrangements. And what that is, it's the same idea as leases related to software. So if you have software that encompasses a period for more than 1 year, we're gonna have the same thing. It's basically an asset and liability, unless it's all prepaid, which we've run into quite a few times now for our June 30th year ends. Within the financial statements, there are a couple things in there that are subject to estimates and subject to big swings. And I'm not sure how much you've talked about this in years past, but the pension liabilities find your way to your financial statements. And I think some of the numbers look a little worse off than I think they really are. And so we'll kind of go through that, and those can swing quite a ways from year to year based off of actuarial changes. Same thing with OPEB or other post-employment benefits. No difficulties performing the audit, no disagreements with management. The audit process went very smooth. We appreciate all of the help we get. It's always a little bit drawn out process the first year just to kind of get to know how all things work and get all the stuff in the back end kind of figured out. And so we appreciate all the help to make that as easy as possible. And then the last page just shows some of the adjusting journal entries that we had during the audit process. And we'll maybe circle back to some of that when we get into the audit report. Okay, so in the audit report starts on page 2. And we've issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. So that's considered a good or clean opinion, that they're fairly stated in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. And so it is management's responsibility for all the numbers in the footnotes within this financial statement. And then it's our responsibility to ensure that those are accurately stated. We do kind of help put this together, so to speak, but Colleen does a very good job of getting all the numbers in the right buckets, and it helps that process. And so that's just kind of what our opinion is saying, is that that's reasonably stated. We also just point out the fact that we did implement the lease standard this year, so that is also within the audit report. Page 6, this is the first audited financial statement. It's a statement of net position. And what this statement is showing is that's what's known as a full accrual financial statement. So it has all your long-term debt, it's got capital assets and net pension liability, etc. And so the first column of numbers that you see there, that's the accounting. At the bottom is what your net position or equity retained earnings is in the entity as a whole, $71,270,802. Of that, maybe 6, 7 lines from the bottom, you can see 46,472,067 is tied into fixed assets related, net related debt. There also is a pretty big piece restricted for capital projects related to debt that was issued in 2022 that had been spent. And so we'll get into that here in a second. I think that's for the jail expansion. That unrestricted number that you see 2 lines to the bottom, that's at a deficit 11,836,936. And the reason that's deficit is because of the net pension liability. And so if you were to take off some of the effects of the net pension liability, that number would actually be a positive 17,715,631. And so the net pension liability, in my mind, is really just an accounting exercise. It's related to your involvement in the state funded pension plans, and they're unfunded at this point in time. So you basically put your piece of the pie on the financial statements, but it's not a number that you're ever gonna have to pay. So you still are required to pay the employee or employer contribution amount, and that's all you really need to worry about, but it does make the financial statements a little bit harder to read. And then you can see that we have 2 other columns of numbers, the Water Resource District and the Fair Association. So those are considered to be discretely presented component units based on their involvement and relationship to the county itself. Both of them you can see have positive net positions. Water Resource District at almost $18.5 million, and the Fair Association at $487,212. So if you flip the page, then the statement of activities is basically the change in those full accrual financial statements. And so 3 lines to the bottom, you're gonna see the change in net position. The first column of numbers there, the change for the governmental activity funds for the county is deficit $1,649,841. That includes a depreciation expense as well as those changes within the net pension liability. So once again, I think this statement's kind of hard to read, but it does provide you with a full accrual financial statement number. Pages 8 and 10, I think are a little bit easier to follow as far as, you know, where you'd be budgeting, kind of the analysis that you'd be doing on a month-to-month basis. And so if you look on the page 8, 2 lines to the bottom, you're gonna see the fund balances within your the first 3 columns numbers are your major funds, which consists of general funds, the jail expansion fund, which is new, and then the special revenue fund. And so you can see 2 lines to the bottom, they all have positive fund balance, so nothing, I guess, to point out there as far as an audit perspective, we like to look for negatives. The jail expansion, like I said, was new this year, basically because of the debt that was issued. And then you have a 4th column of numbers for other governmental funds, and those are all the funds that are not considered major, basically pulled into one opinion unit on this statement. And so the general fund has $15,803,010 at the end of December 2022. And then if you flip over then to page 10, 3 lines to the bottom, you're gonna see the overall change within those fund balances for each one of those funds. And so after all was said and done, the general fund was up $565,700. And I want to point out about a third of the way from the bottom, you see that proceeds of bond / lease issuance of almost $2 million. That is related to the lease standard that got implemented. So that really offset itself with the capital outlay expenditure that you see up above. So it's basically an in and out down there, but you know, it kind of looks like you issued debt and technically in years past, that would have been the case, but for this year, it really looks like you have, and that's just offsetting itself. The jail expansion had the $32,765,000 of proceeds for the bonds, so that's why that number is such a large amount, and so we expect to see that to start being spent down here in 2023. Special revenue fund was down $2,548,642, and we'll see here in a second how those all compare to what you had budgeted. Very quickly, pages 12 and 13. These are known as your fiduciary funds or custodial funds. And so basically, all counties are gonna have this statement, which is your receipts and collections for other entities. So as you receive taxes and remit them, these are the statements that they run through. We keep them out of your numbers because they're not technically your dollars. So we just account for them and show the activity. Pages 14 through 41 are the footnotes to the financial statements. I won't go through any detail at this point in time, but we can certainly circle back if there's questions. It contains lots of information like your accounting policies, changes in your debt, lots of information on the net pension liability, etc. So for right now, let's go to page 42. Page 42 is the budgetary comparison schedule for the general fund. And so the number that you see on the bottom right there, that 1,610,379, is the difference between your final budget and what you actually came in at. So you were actually projecting a large loss of a little bit over $3 million. Ended up a positive $565,700. So it was a positive variance for the general fund. And that was actually a combination of additional revenues than was anticipated, as well as less expenditures than you anticipated too. So basically a little bit better on both ends. The next page then shows the same thing for the special revenue funds, and bottom right corner, once again, $1,844,196 better than projected. And a lot of times these special revenue funds have a tendency to do that based off of grants maybe that you got that you weren't expecting, or just projects that hadn't happened or spent money on yet. Next page that I will go through is on page 50. And so once you receive and spend over $750,000 of federal awards, you're required to have a separate single audit or uniform guidance audit, and that's what this section is starting. And so you can see you're a little bit over $2.6 million in federal disbursements, and it's broken into lots of different categories. That the bottom number there, the 1,189,805, related to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. That's the program we ended up testing. So when I kind of go through the report for the single audit, that's the report for the program that we looked at. Pages 52 and 53. This is known as the Government Auditing Standards Report, which is really a high-level overview of your internal control structure of the county. And we have 3 findings. All these are considered repeat findings. And the first one relates to just some of the adjusting journal entries that we made as part of the county audit. And the second 2 are related to the Water Resource District. Same thing, the adjusting journal entries that we had for that, as well as separation of duties, because we basically have 1 employee in that department running all the activity for the Water Resource. And so those, I mean, are findings that are pretty common. And what we're looking for there is, reviewing and improving the adjusting journal entries, before, and making sure you understand them, so maybe they're not repeat going forward, etc. And then pages 54 through 56. This is the last section related to the single audit that I was referring to before, or the uniform guidance audit. We've issued an unmodified opinion on the program that we tested, as I mentioned before. So that's considered a good or clean opinion that you're in compliance with all the direct and material compliance requirements. And we did have 2 repeat findings. The first one was related to a couple of the reports, as I mentioned before, that got submitted incorrectly for the quarter. And then in total for the year, I think you were okay, but the quarterly reports were wrong. So kind of just bring this to the attention of the oversight agencies, and they kind of look at them and determine if there's a corrective action plan that's necessary or not. And that's where our recommendation to review those before they get submitted came from. And then the last one is related to suspension and debarment. And so there are rules within federal guidelines that says, if you're gonna pay a contractor over $25,000, you have to ensure that they're suspended and debarred before entering into agreement with them. And there was nothing documented, at least, that said that you did that. So that, once again, just something to build into your procurement policy, some kind of a vendor analysis maybe to be done when you're receiving federal awards. And like I mentioned before, last year, you ended up having 9 findings. And so this year it's down to 5. A couple of those you're probably not going to get rid of just because there's AJE or separation duties issue. These last 2 that I just went through, I think, hopefully will be gone going forward. So still better, like I said, than last year. Last year you had a lot of sub-recipient monitoring findings, and so it didn't necessarily come into play. And kind of one of those things where you deal with it a lot because of the COVID funds. And so we saw a lot of entities have those same kind of issues, but looks like they've been addressed. So that was a very quick run through of 60-70 pages, so have to answer some questions.
So in regards to the outside contractor, what does debarment mean?
So let's just say that that somebody worked with this entity within the state, and they were either fraudulent or they had bad practices. The state basically can come down and have legal legally say that you can't do business with them anymore because of things that they've done with other entities, et cetera.
Oh, so the state has barred them from doing business, and
Yes.
so we just need to make sure that that's the case, okay, I got you.
Yes, and it's not necessarily, I said state, it's not necessarily state, but it's federal, so once you get on that list, basically, they have to be clean for so long before they can get off of it. And there's a website that you're supposed to go to see if they're disbarred.
Cool, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? No? Great, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, appreciate it.
Very nice report. Good. Emergency manager.
I don't like that look, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I have two separate but related items for you tonight. And I did include a fact sheet in your packet to hopefully help you understand all of this federal stuff. Both of these items are concerning the hazard mitigation plan. Each local jurisdiction throughout the country is required by federal law to have an approved hazard mitigation plan that is renewed every 5 years. So for some of you that have been on the board or involved here, you remember I was here for this back in 2019. Our plan was last renewed, and by renewed, I mean it's actually the state and FEMA accepted the plan. The approval of the plan allows the county and the participating jurisdictions to participate in the 3 hazard mitigation programs that are on that letter. And since 2017, Grand Forks County has received almost $10 million in hazard mitigation funds between our jurisdictions, our incorporated cities, townships that do their own planning and zoning in the city of Grand Forks. So between all of those, we've gotten almost $10 million, and we've only gotten that money because we had an approved plan. Due to some new federal requirements that are pretty extensive, we've already begun our updating process because it's going to be a much heavier lift this time. And so we're applying for a mitigation plan grant to help us facilitate the process. We've actually applied for this grant in past years. This year, we moved up the timeline a little bit so we can get started soon. Part of the application process requires that each jurisdiction submit a letter of intent to participate in the process of planning. So first signature I would like tonight, and a motion to say that, yes, you will please participate in the update of the plan. And then I would need the chair's signature for that.
Okay,
And I'm doing these in 2 separate ones.
okay.
Approval of the signature.
Commissioner Page makes the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried.
Thank you. The second document, the letter to the state, the disaster recovery chief, Justin Messer, acknowledging that the board understands that because this is a hazard mitigation grant, there is a 25% local match. The good news about local matches is that for these programs, we can do that in what they call in kind. And so the last time we had this grant, we fulfilled our obligation with just in kind, and we didn't have to write a check. And because part of the requirements of the planning process require public meetings, at least 3 general public meetings. Only this time, we're also going to have meetings with special population providers and special population groups. So, and then also our department heads, city department heads, anybody that had the water district, everybody that has either received funds or have projects. And the last time we did this, we had several townships turn out to talk about potential projects. Nick was very supportive last time in putting together all of this stuff for these meetings. So this letter to Justin Metzner is just your acknowledgement that there is a cost share, and then so we need a motion for its signature, I guess, that's what I'm asking.
Questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How did we satisfy the in-kind requirement earlier?
For the last time, it was through the public meetings. Because for every person that comes to the meeting, FEMA has a dollar amount that they put on their time. And then they also have a dollar amount for their mileage. So when you're driving from Niagara to Grand Forks, you know, the mileage and stuff adds up. And so we met and that's part of what the contractor does. They track all of that. And then we submit it to state DES with our plan, and then that goes to FEMA, and that meets our obligations for that local cost share. They put that in there to make sure that we have skin in the game, just like other bucket grant. But we had very good turnout. Our jurisdiction actually had better turnout than any in the state last time, so. Hopeful that we're gonna do that again.
We have a motion then to approve. Commissioner Reagan makes a motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Rusted. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Thank you, that's all I have. Did the things.
Eric Snyder.
Chairman Ross, members of the commission, thanks for your time tonight. I come tonight with the addendum for the special operations group to empower the agreement. You had previously signed off on this. It was then reviewed by the Attorney General's office. And they came with an opinion and requested an addendum to remove the University of North Dakota Police Department. So just for refresher, this is for special operations team, SWAT bomb negotiations, all to have employees participate in these teams and respond to calls for service. And the Attorney General, their office is of the opinion that UND cannot engage in this currently due to some restrictions based off of their territorial lines and some other verbiage in state century code. So I'm requesting chair's signature on the newly revised addendum, removing UND and adding Marvin County, Minnesota to the agreement.
Okay. Questions, anybody?
I have a question. So if there's an issue on campus, is this attorney's general or attorney general's opinion? That SWAT's ability to go there, or is it just their ability to help outside of it?
Commissioner Rusted, members of the board, it doesn't affect the ability for any team to respond to campus. It's the ability of law enforcement officers employed by the University of North Dakota to respond outside of that jurisdiction.
Seem very sensible, but
I reviewed it at length multiple times, and unfortunately, it'll take a legislative change to get them added, which hopefully tentatively happens here in a year and a half.
I'll make the motion to allow the chair to sign the
Okay,
agreement.
second by Commissioner Hagan. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
I have nothing further besides have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
West.
Afternoon. Couple of tidbits for the board, so earlier, Brady Marks was talking about the audit, the contractor question came up. Just for the board's knowledge, if for a highway project, if there's federal money involved, that's it always been for the DOT. They have an extensive review process for the contractors or consult engineers as well. So I think we're covered there. I guess, it'd be a question for legal counsel, but and then from if we have a locally funded project that is big enough to do a public bid, then we require the contractor's license be submitted with the bid and copies of insurance, so I think that would work, in my opinion. But there would be a gap between some of the little bit bigger locally funded projects that are not bid, that I suppose we would be pretty vested in those requirements, but I think it's easily solved. We just gotta ask for it. At least from highway standpoint, I think we could solve that problem pretty easily, so. I don't know if there's any questions on that, but we just ask any contractor that doesn't work for the county to submit that to us and keep it on file and. We go.
Have you ever had a situation where a contractor we're working with, you find out later, maybe we shouldn't have been working with? Is there way you can check ahead of time, other than the licensing and of course the insurance?
Not since I've been at the county, no, I've never had that come up.
That's what,
Yeah, in my experience in the highway industry, it's pretty rare, but it does happen. Something we'll go for. And, about an hour ago, Chairman Ross signed a deed for the Manville property, where our shed is being built, so we officially own that. So, the project's progressing well, the utilities services are connected, the concrete slab was poured before it snowed, before it got cold. And so, that's great, so we don't have to deal with any of those issues, but no, just frame it up in tin, which can be done anytime, so. But moving on to the flexible transportation grant. We do have a few projects that, or two projects we talked about last meeting. And, just taking a step back from this, it's funny in our industry, talk to my counterparts that, you know, well, like to complain about things, right? So there's a lot of grants at the state and federal level that we've always argued are so, lack of a better words, pigeoned into just one specific area. Like there's a federal grant to replace structures on streams with endangered fish that they feel impede the travel of fish, right? We don't have that problem here, but that's how specific grants get. This particular grant, we got what we wanted, right? We asked for more flexibility, and we got it. And so it's, now we're jokingly back and forth with different people that, what are they asking for? We don't know what to apply for and how much to ask or what, you know, and so, but, it's a good thing. So it really can be a broad, scope of projects they're looking at, but two main projects, we've talked about thus far is the County Road 25 in Williams Trail County. And then the Epitome Energy Project. And then I do have, and I just came to my recommendation on Friday, so it's not in the packet, but 3 bridges in our system I would like to apply for. That we can talk about later, but we do have representatives from the city. Mr. Todd Phelan and Mr. Al Grasser are here if there's any questions, and we also, I think online, yes, we have Mr. Dennis Hangen with Epitome Energy as well. And I asked them to come because last meeting there were some questions and I can't answer them because I'm not intimately involved in the project. But big picture wise, the city of Grand Forks is going to be the lead governmental agency on the project. And they've asked the county to support them in going after flexible transportation grant. And so with that, if it's okay, we would have Sir Todd Phelan has volunteered to give an update to the board as where the project's at and answer any questions. Okay, so.
Thanks for having us. I have a PowerPoint presentation. We also have Ben Stevens, so this is one we recently gave the Franklin State Council. We've also been in the state of North Dakota and briefed all the various state agencies. So it's kind of go through all the various parts of this project and who we're partnering with. And along the way, so maybe the next slide, Gabby, nice. And then the next slide. And then maybe with this is the opportunity time for maybe Dennis to just give you and us a project update. We always hope that these projects move forward. I think this one has a significant chance of moving forward. You know, we always wake up acting like things are going to work out. I think this one does have a really good chance of moving forward. In Spirit Bush, they cut the ribbon with the 8 AM soybean crushing facility. You can see on the west side of Castleton, there's a soybean crushing facility that's going up. And so this would be the third one that we'd really like to get started next spring. So with that, I'd ask Dennis just to give you guys an update on kind of where he's at and what progress he has made recently.
Well, commissioners and chair, I really appreciate the time to be here and answer questions and provide this update for you. As you know, it's a 42 million bushel soybean crush facility that will be just north of Grand Forks. And as we continue to work with the city on our developers agreement, there will be a process in which the city is going to annex the land. And then we can have Todd talk a little bit about the utilities that will be coming there. But from a big picture standpoint, Our air application was submitted June of this year. And it looks as though the state of North Dakota is going to look to give us our air permit sometime in January of next year, which is about a 7-month window, which has been pretty traditional for the air permits on crush facilities. We also on the site did our wetland delineation. We did our phase 1 environmental. The big takeaways is that we do have offtake agreements for 100% of all of the oil and all of the soybean meal being produced from this facility. Our partner in that is an international player that has offices in the US, in South America, and in Canada. So they're a pretty significant player in this space, and we're really pleased that we're able to partner with them long-term for the offtake. We also have most of our engineering is done. Our contractor for this project, an EPC contractor, is Fagan Inc. And then we're also using a Minnesota company called Crown for all of our technology needs. We'll be the 5th soybean crush facility built by Fagan and their team. And so for us, we get kind of all those lessons learned from their early days of constructing the crush facilities. The first one starting in Michigan. They've done a couple in Iowa. They're have one underway in Nebraska, and then the plan is spring of next year we'll break ground, and their team from Nebraska will come to Grand Forks to start this project. Last week, I had the opportunity to present to the for a grant from the state of North Dakota, ADD grant. We were awarded dollars to move forward with some additional site work this year and moving into spring of next year. So our goal is to have all the soil borings done, as well as our construction and industrial stormwater plan started and moving forward with those aspects of it. We continue to work on our debt and equity for this project. We have made significant progress both on the debt and then also attracting large infrastructure funds to look at this project. We hope to be able to keep that process moving and make announcements in the future in terms of who those partners are. But things continue to move forward, and our goal is to have the developers agreement done by the end of this year and get that presented to the city of Grand Forks. And so we're finalizing and have had some really good positive discussions with the city of Grand Forks on that front. So from a 30,000 foot perspective, that's kind of where the project stands today.
All right, next slide. This is kind of, really, this is intended to show, all the colors are intended to show all the different pieces and parts that it takes to serve a facility like this. And I'll go through all these in particular, but it takes a lot to serve this facility, and I'll go through those one at a time. Next slide, Devin. These are kind of the baseline that we're working off of. The potable and fire water supply, and certainly the city is going to annex that facility, and so we want to make sure from a potable water and fire protection, our fire department will serve this facility. And so we're going to need 16-inch water mains that will go to this particular site. So it's not a huge drinking water or fire protection provider in this area. Really, how we're going to serve them with processed water with wastewater reuse, and you can see that at peak at 425 on an average day 300,000. So essentially, I'll show you some diagrams how they're going to take our wastewater effluent after treatment, and we're going to serve this facility. That's not a large number. So if you look at what Simplot uses our drinking water, obviously they're food grade, so they have to use potable water. They're about 2 million gallons per day, and so you can see where this 300 to 425,000 is significantly smaller. If you remember Fufeng USA, they were upwards of 6 to 7 million gallons per day. So on the order of magnitude, this is on the lower end of the industrial facility. And then the wastewater collection, I'll go through some of that. Again, that Simplot's probably around 10 million gallons in and about 2 million gallons outside. So this wastewater collection part, again, is a relatively small. They'll evaporate a lot of water out of the system. So that's why you see a lower number that comes out of this facility that then goes into that particular facility. Next slide. And then stormwater and transportation, we'll spend some time as next talking about transportation. That's two of the challenging parts of this facility are the transportation component and full water, try to get water protection up there and also transportation. And I think one of really the positive parts of this facility is it's further outside of the city. It's really well connected with rail up in that area. And so it really, and it's near that interstate interchange and highway 81 going up there. So there's a lot of positives to the project, and we can't hit 10 out of 10 on positives, but there are some two challenges. Next slide. So this is, I think, the water, the water line. So what we are intending to do is we're going to, I don't know, glasses on, sorry, I think this is the water. So we're going to interconnect this 16-inch water main on Highway 81, where we've been putting in water main up there. We're going to put it, place it underneath interstate. We're going to connect it with the Epitome Energy site, and then we're going to go down 69th Street and then interconnect with our system near the wastewater treatment plant. So the reason why we want to interconnect, this is a large water main that's not going to be used much. Therefore, we got to keep the water flowing in this pipe, otherwise we're going to have a lot of problems. So we're going to loop this water main to our existing system. So that's why what we're doing in this particular case, because it's going to really have low flow. But you're going to need the water main at the moment of truth. And so that's what we're doing here. The other thing we're working with is, this is an Agassiz Rural Waters District. So we've been working with John Eaton and that board, because we'll have to work out an agreement with Agassiz water users regarding this particular water main as we move forward. The other entity that we're working with is the State Water Commission and North Dakota Department of Water Resources, because they have cost shares with us on water supply lines like this. So for municipality, it's 60% cost share they'll pay, and for rural water users, they'll pay 75%. So we're not quite sure how the state's going to categorize this as a municipal / rural, but we anticipate getting between 60 and 75% cost share on this people, which will ease some of the burden. And then when Mr. Egan talked about the cost shares, we got to work out that remaining 40%, and that'll be spelled out in the development as we move forward. And we'll also work with Agassiz Rural Water on this particular infrastructure too. Next slide. This is the wastewater reuse. So you can see where the line is. We're going to basically, we're doing some wastewater treatment plant expansions currently right now. So essentially they'll take our wastewater effluent and we're going to deliver it to that facility. And they'll do some, further augmentation for their system and use it. So this is one of the really key strategic locations of this facility. We're within a mile or so of our wastewater treatment plant. If you look at the Castleton facility, they're taking wastewater reuse from the Fargo wastewater treatment plant. So that's about 25 miles. And so you can about imagine the ethanol plant gets wastewater reuse from Fargo, and now this soybean facility will too. But they're basically the state's helping cost share on a 25-mile reuse line. So it's this is really much more strategically located. This is another line that we are going to work with the State Water Commission and the North Dakota Department of Water Resources for either a 60% cost share or 75% cost share, because this is water supply, though it's wastewater reuse. So this is another opportunity for us to partner with the state of North Dakota. We shall be thankful for the state of North Dakota and all these various buckets they have to help cost share on projects like this. Otherwise, we really struggle to make projects happen. The remaining cost share, Epitome Energy will pay all that cost share, because this was really solely going to their facility. Next slide. And this is the wastewater collection. So this site is located just north of where the city's solid waste landfill is. And so this is one area where we're going to build a specific wastewater pump station on their site. And then they will interconnect with our wastewater treatment plant. But you can see along the way, they're going to reuse, they're going to integrate with some of our force mains that serve landfill. And so in the interim, we're going to be able to save some upfront costs, because they're going to be able to use some of the capacity of our wastewater force main that serves our landfill. And so that's generally what this depicts. Again, this will be infrastructure that will solely serve Epitome Energy, and so they'll pay for the cost of this. But we've really found some ways to beneficially use existing infrastructure, in this case, the landfill. To make this project more affordable for the energy in the city and in the upcoming business. Next slide. The next one is stormwater, and in this area, what we've learned is there's stormwater issues up in this area where there's no real, obviously the water and stormwater in Grand Forks County and the River Valley moves north and east and wants to find the Red River. In this case, over the years through development in this area, the water gets trapped. There's no outlet to the Red River through, residential developments, through highway, all the things that our predecessors did made things challenging for us. So I think this is another positive that will happen in this area from a stormwater perspective. Is number one, we're gonna take, right now, I think that site is going to be 50 to 100 acres, so it's going to take all the stormwater of that facility off of the drainage basin. So essentially what will happen is they'll have a stormwater pond on that site, probably a pump station, and then they're going to build a stormwater force main that will interconnect with the city's stormwater line that serves the landfill, and then it'll go to the Red River. So this will be a positive, and again, another way that we're reusing existing infrastructure from the city, in this case, the landfill one more time. And I think it will take some of the stormwater off the site that's heading north and east and is causing issues in this area. So it'll be a net positive because of this development. The next one is a challenging one, and this is the transportation, and this shows the transportation corridor. We did do a traffic study up front with Epitome Energy and with the state of North Dakota about looking at areas that we need to improve the transportation access. And so essentially the study came up is that we're going to have to improve 55th Street from Highway 2 to the site. We're going to improve 70th Avenue that goes directly south to the site. And then there's some ancillary ways out. If you look at 69th is a kind of a minimal maintenance road. And then there's some gravel roads. So this is really, there's a lot of miles that we're gonna have to improve. And for the most part, these are township roads. And you should also know that I see we have some representatives in Faulkner Township here, but the site's in Rye Township, but 55th is a 50/50 road. To the east is Faulkner Township and to the west is Rye Township. Working on the planning and zoning side, we'll work with Rye Township because it is in Rye Township. They prefer the city annexes and make sure that we take ownership and responsibility for the site, working with Epitome Energy. The other issue is with all these roads will get annexed into the city too. So when we make these improvements, they'll be annexed into the city, meaning we'll maintain them long-term and also do operation maintenance on all these particular roads as we move forward. I don't know if there's another slide out for this one on the road side. I think Paul. So the transportation is a really expensive investment in this area because we're doing, I don't know, if you add them all up, it's got to be 5+ miles of improvements. And so we're trying to find a strategic way to do this. And so when the transportation side looked at this, they looked at doing concrete roads, more of a urban curb and gutter. So we looked at alternative strategies to try to save some money. And so in that vein, that was $20+ million to do this. We've come back with maybe some doing some paving, but doing more rural sections in the area. And I think we're around the 16 million. Al Grasser in our engineering firm, they've gone down and talked to Cass County, and they've done some other ways of doing, we'll call it farm to industry kind of roads that maybe aren't, that are kind of, I would say more augmented gravel roads with more of a cement base to them. So there's some other strategies we're working on so that we can get it from a $20+ million improvement to a 60 to something less in that particular area. So we're working hard in that on various areas. And that kind of really plays into, we have great funding buckets from the state on water supply, and they've also created some additional buckets for transportation. And there's this flexible transportation bucket. There's otherwise known as the last mile. And the problem we have with it is that we have last mile. So we have the plural problem, but at least the state's identified that we're going to have agribusiness facilities that are going to be located just outside the city in the county on township roads. And we need the state stepping in to try to find ways that they can help us move forward with these projects, so there are some funding buckets that Nick was talking about, and that we're working. We really want to show on this project that we're working together from a city and a county perspective and taking these roads off of the township responsibility and really add for. But we're gonna really need to demonstrate that we're working together with our county that was as we always have. Next slide. And then this is all the various infrastructure, so it's about 37 million, and as I talked about, the potable water and fire protection is a significant investment. I think we're gonna get 60 to 75% cost share from the state of North Dakota. And then this 17 million, and that's kind of the reduced amount. We're out for another look. We're gonna take another look to see if we can do some other strategic things to reduce that 17 million down too. So if you look at the beneficial wastewater reuse, the wastewater collection and stormwater, those will be all amounts that will end up in the development agreement where we'll set up either through special assessment or through water rates that Epitome will pay for those on a probably a 20 to 30 year basis. The potable water, again, we're gonna have to work on that because that water main can serve a larger area long term. And so we're working on strategies with that, and then the transportation access, it's another cost share. We're hopeful on our goal on the transportation, working with the state of North Dakota, is that if we can get 80% funded of that dollar, would be an ultimate goal. We have to work with Epitome Energy, and we certainly would like to work with ourselves as a city and the county on how do we close whatever that cost share may be. I think best case, we'll get 80% from the state. It might be less than that, but we're really gonna have to have many different buckets to make that happen. Those buckets are in the DOT and they're in the North Dakota Department of Ag, who also has some flexible spending accounts where they can help us out with that too. So next slide. And these are all the various programs that I spoke of. That we even met with the state of North Dakota, they're excited about this project. It's good that we, Grand Forks has a good name in Camp Bismarck, where we have state entities trying to help us get across the finish line from the Ag Commissioner to the DOT, the Department of Water Resources. It is really heartening, you should know, there that they're really trying to help us support this particular project. So these are all the various funding programs. And there might be one more slide, Abby. And then again, these are the specific for transportation that we've been working on. And I think in this case, what we're asking for the county commission is that you would send you would support a joint letter in supporting our application on the flexible transportation fund for this particular project. And to support that. And then we'll know sometime after the new year, what kind of cost share we get from the state, and then how we're going to fill the remaining cost share between Epitome, the city, and we may even want to come back to the county solution to help us out in this year. So with that, I think that's it. These are all the various sections of the development agreement. I anticipate us bringing the development agreement to the city council on, I think it's the committee of the whole on December 11th, and we're going to ask for it to get approved on the 18th. And similar to previous projects that were well highlighted, this only allows us to move forward and working in good faith with Epitome Energy to see if we can get across the finish line on all these various tasks. Doesn't say we're going the project, it just defines how we're going to move forward and moves through all these various infrastructures and studies that we're going to need to do as part of this project. We have already approved, and you helped us approve the 83% tax exemption, property tax exemption over 15 years. And so we have that in place. That'll get integrated into the development agreement with all these other various components that we have in front of us. We're also going to work with Dennis. They're going to come to the city, and similar to, I think, what Red River Biorefinery did with the county, they're gonna ask the state to provide them some industrial bonds in the solid waste category, and Dennis, when we talked, and they think they may have upwards of 125 million of their 450 million that may be qualified for those bonds. So at that same meeting, we're gonna ask the city council to approve the city of Grand Forks as a conduit for bonding, similar to what we did with Ultra, that we don't own the debt. However, they can get some tax strategy in case the cost of that too. So that's the other financing mechanism that will on the in this. With that, we would stand for any questions and I think that's what we're asking tonight, Al, is.
Yep.
We're asking for your support specifically in the transportation part that when we submit for these various state programs. On 55th, 70th and all those associated roads, that you would partner up with us on those state grant. Requests as well for approval this evening. And we'll certainly keep you involved and we'll keep the 2 townships involved, Rye and Faulkner, and we'll keep Ace and Rural Water and you as the county commission for lots of moving parts.
Questions?
Commissioner, with respect to the participation in 11. We don't do that tonight, do we? You'll have something to present to us, you know, so that we know what we're signing off on. But I don't think I can tell yet.
There, Commissioner and members of the board, in the packet. I took a very rough stab at what a letter could look like for consideration. Non-English major, but, there is, yeah, and then I also have some letters for a letter for the County Road 25 project for consideration as well. Yeah, so I guess it'd be up to the board if they want to draft something different or have one of us draft something different. Sorry, Tom, I was looking at you, but, and I believe Mr. Ford sent one out earlier today of a letter that could be used. The application is due at the end of the year. So there is some time, I think we could come back at next meeting with something as well too. If there's something we want to do something different or, but I don't think we want to wait till the 27th meeting. Or 26th or whichever one it is, if we want to do a meeting or do something we want to do by next meeting of the 6th. So yes, ideally we would ask for a letter signed by the chair. I'm sorry, sir.
Have you looked at the possible letter? If you sent something out, I didn't see it today. I would be.
No, the draft Mr. West submitted, what it just says that the county would support a joint application with the city for the flexible transportation. Hard to say if the state takes that as the board committing to local share or not. It doesn't say you are in the letter, but it says you're supportive of the application.
Yeah, I think we should support the application, but it's nice to know the details of whether there's a request. The monetary, any funds from the county. So.
My understanding is we're not being asked at this time
Okay, so
with the application.
we can do this without. Any monetary agreement here.
Yeah.
All right.
Cal, do you know what we're asking for when we submit? What's our request going to be for state auction?
Well, we're gonna ask, like you said, probably 80% of the number that we come up with. We're still trying to work through some alternatives if I get that number down, because it's a big number at this point in time, but. We're planning on submitting this by the deadline here in December. And right now, we're just asking, and if this whole process of the state is just kind of. Morphosizing itself right now, it's new in the legislature, so nothing is really permanent. They do talk about, if we can get, supporting. Letters from other entities and whatnot, it's just to show that we're not, going out there and ramblings someplace on our own, it's to show that. There's kind of a knowledgeable collective. We're not asking for county financial participation at this point. Okay. All right, any other questions from the other commissioners? I would entertain a motion then. Commissioner Hagan makes the motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Rusted? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what was the motion to approve
To
this
just
one?
so-
Support, sign a joint
Just
letter.
the one letter, not
Yeah.
Yeah.
the next letter on the next page, just the one letter.
The one letter.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
The energy project.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried.
One question for you, Mr. Freeland. Is there any organized opposition that you're seeing at the council? You tend to get some. Local opposition at some of your meetings more so than we do here, so I'm wondering, what's the feeling of the community out there?
I think it's relatively quiet on this whole thing. I think you'll have some concerns about that residential neighborhood that's, in the area. There is a residential home on the corner of 70th and 55th. That I know that Dominion Energy is looking to buy that residence out. That's the nearest one, but across the highway there, I can't think of the name of the subdivision up there. Lemoyne Edition, so, like with all projects, maybe I've gotten a little jaded in my older age. If you wanna do anything, someone's gonna be opposed to it, and if we wanna do nothing, that's the easiest thing to do, and so, we're doing about as much as we can, I know Epitome Energy is dedicated to it. That, hey, we grow soybeans, it'd be kinda nice to process them and produce something here as opposed to sending to Asia and to China. It would be strategic for us to do that, and if we can do it in Jamestown, if we can do it in Casper, by God, I think we can do it in Grand Forks. Yeah.
And this project started out possibly in Crookston, didn't it? And it came here, yeah, that's a good thing.
And I think Dennis would speak to the business environment that we have in North Dakota and Grand Forks, and so we should be thankful for that. I don't know if Dennis has anything more. He's more on the ground on that. There's always gonna be opposition, but we intend to mitigate and find compromise. Where it may arise.
Okay, good.
Right. All right, thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
all.
Wheeler. Strasser.
Appreciate your time, commissioners.
The other project we've discussed is the Eagle Avenue Conroe 25 project we've shared with Trail County. In the packet, there's a letter of support. Yeah, I typed it up, I tried and, well, I plagiarized most of Trail County's letter first, but, to be honest with you, and then there's one letter that would assure the county's 10% financial support on that. If there are any questions, otherwise I would ask for chairman's signature on both of those, and then in Trail County, they also had their auditor or taxing finance director sign the letter of assurance as well.
Any questions?
Finally coming to fruition.
Okay, that 10% is you have in your budget.
I'm gonna hold something for it.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of prairie dog money left over, that I'm gonna earmark a little bit for that
Okay,
until we find out. If we don't get the grant, we'll move on to something else, but we'll pull off a little bit for this project.
I'll get it, sorry.
There's a chance if they approve it quick, we could do it in 2024.
Yeah.
That project would be easy to do.
And you've been working on it a long time.
Yes.
I'm still looking for the cars in the ruts, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, do I have well, assuming a roll call vote, let's do it this way. All those in favor of the motion?
We need the motion.
Oh, yeah,
We have one.
okay, who's gonna make the motion? Commissioner Egan,
I'll
second
second.
Commissioner Peach. All those in favor of the motion, roll call vote. Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried unanimously.
Thank you.
All right,
Well, it's Friday, I come to my recommendation here for 3 other bridges to be included, to be submitted on the grant. Should I give a quick summary now, or should I come back next meeting with a write-up? There. 2 of them are township bridges and one is a culvert project on County Road 20. I tried to pick a variety of different scenarios. These are smaller projects, of course, nothing as significant as Eagle Avenue or Epitome Energy. Kind of hoping that maybe they fund 1 or 2 small projects here, but. They're not on the agenda, they weren't part of the package, because I wasn't ready by that, but. So,
Do we have to
come back next meeting.
allow that? Anyone there?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think, you could do a motion to amend the agenda, if you wish to address it today.
Would you want to amend the agenda to hear about its three? Yeah. Or just come back the next meeting?
Does either way. We're here.
I would need a motion then to do that.
I move to amend the agenda to have a short presentation.
Short
And then.
Okay, so, and I got Commissioner Peach.
You don't wanna roll call this one, Bob.
Yeah, all right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Thank you very much. I'll try to go quick. So the three structures I have, one is it's in Grace Township, on County Road 20, just right south of County Road 6. It's a they're two big double culverts, they're 15 feet wide by 8 feet tall. It'd be a replacement project. The reason they're on the list is because they're extremely, showing extreme movement, settlement. And there's a head wall that's on them that is separated from the culvert and it has extreme, distortion, they call it. It's deformed, put it that way. So it could be just a replacement project, but that I picked it because it's on a county road. It does not have a ton limit, but it's on the poor list because it's has a code 4, so they call it, so it's imminently going to be have a ton limit and be a problem, and I'd like to replace it because it's a county road and we want to have priority on those. The second project is in Gilby Township, just a mile west of Gilby, on a minimum maintenance road. It's a bridge that about 5 years ago, we had a fertilizer truck fall through it. And we fixed it up. The problem is the piles have hard rot on them. So there's not much we can do about that except replace it, but the reason this one's on the list, well, one, it's 5 ton limit, but I don't think we need a bridge anymore. And I've talked to the adjacent farmers in the township about putting in a low water crossing in this location. And that would be great, and I think the state would bite on that, by getting a bridge off the system. There is another bridge on the same mile, it's about a half mile north of this location that we can fix out as well too. It has a ton limit, so we can provide good access to the farmers. And I think that would be good. The third project is just a straight up township bridge, whole thing's in poor shape, 10 ton on the Blooming Ride line. And it's just everything about it's poor. So it's needs to be replaced with a box culvert. Those are my 3 projects.
Okay. And those are all for a grant,
Yes, to apply for a grant.
okay?
And then I'd be open to discussion on how much cost share we would apply for it. My recommendation is 80-20 split, but we would pay 20%.
Is that in your budget?
That's the standard Title A formula. Yeah,
Is that in your budget?
not specifically. But we have construction funds that are not obligated for next year yet, plus we got money left over.
Okay,
So that's all, we could fund it, yes.
okay.
Good.
That was my question.
Yes.
Do I have a motion? Commissioner Peach makes the motion to approve, Commissioner Hagan seconds, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
So if I wrote up a letter of support, I didn't clarify that, would that mean, would you sign it?
Signature.
Okay,
Chair's signature, yes.
okay. Perfect. That is all I have.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you for amending the agenda, getting me taken care of.
county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just a few updates for the commission's awareness. I'll start with the Association of Defense Communities. Fall conference, I was out there and Ms. Leon was out there as well, and we had a variety of meetings. We met with the Assistant Secretary of Defense for installations, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for installations, Secretary of the Air Force for energy sustainment, just to name a few. All were pretty good conversations. They continue to stress mission resiliency among active installations in their communities. If you recall, the county completed a mission resiliency study. It was a grant funded study a couple of years ago. We discussed that with the assistant secretary and he was glad to see that. Ms. Leon and I have a meeting with base leadership next month to discuss that mirror study that we did and some potential exercises and follow-ups for more federal funding to address those. Regarding the county and Grand Sky, Grand Sky continues to be staff's favorite project and what they point other communities towards. When other communities want to do EOL, so Grand Forks County, the commission, you're well thought of still among the Air Force leadership, so. But all in all, good conference there. Happy to answer questions offline if you want, and I'll send a more detailed message to the commission on how those specific meetings went and who we met with. The parking ramp, I did have a meeting with city leadership a few weeks ago. And essentially how that meeting went is they'd like to see the county put in those repairs first. That were in the assessment Mr. Clement completed for us. So I've had a couple conversations with Mr. Clement and with Ms. Nelson, and I've asked Mr. Clement to come back to the next meeting where we'll have more information for you to discuss. With some updated potential costs, as you know, there's because of inflation, that test was done, or that assessment was done a couple of years ago. But it doesn't look like the city is interested in a swap at this time. And I'll elaborate further next month. Also, the commission had asked for another COG and boardhouse assessment of how we're utilizing our functioning square footage. I do have 3 proposals that I'll bring back to the commission next month. I'm just waiting on some answers, follow-up questions. So just want the board to be aware that these 2 projects are coming on December 5th. And finally, you might have noticed the courthouse security improvements are underway. And other than that, that's all I have, and if there's any questions, happy to answer.
All right, thank you. State Attorney.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. I just have one item for the board's consideration today. It's in relation to the county's opioid litigation that's ongoing. Our counsel for that matter has reached out to us pertaining to a settlement regarding the company McKinsey and Company. As you're likely aware, there are a number of entities that have filed for bankruptcy involved in this litigation, and McKinsey and Company is one of those companies. They are working on a settlement right now. The court has set a deadline of January 5th, where political subdivisions need to make a decision if they're opting in or opting out of the settlement agreement with this entity. It is our counsel's recommendation that we do not opt out of the settlement at this time. As you're likely aware from prior settlement agreements, it's difficult to say we've received X in a settlement because it's all dependent on the number of entities that opt in and out. How the court is viewing this at this time is that everyone is currently opted in. And so if you wish to opt into the settlement, no action is needed by the board. But if we wish to opt out of the settlement, then we would need to take that action by January 5th and notify our council. Are there any questions, anybody?
So would we stay in?
Yeah.
It's first thing to me that we stay in these things. It's not something we want to end up trying to move forward with a few other entities at some point. So, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to me, does, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
And we would only need a motion if we're gonna opt out of it.
Right, yeah, that's what you said. Yep. All right, committee reports, Mr. Commissioner Ruskin.
NPO has kind of put together their list of called long shots, mid-range and likely road projects, pedestrian walk, at least like that, things of that nature. I forgot it, I meant to bring it here, so I could actually get some detail, but. Just know it's in the works.
Are we still talking bridges?
Yes, he might, we are. Merrifield and Intercity is the top of the bill. Then, of course, Commissioner Hagan, yourself and myself were in attendance at the what's it, the League of Counties? No,
Oh, association.
Association of Counties, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the League of Cities, Association of Counties, and
Yeah.
here next. The next room or wherever, well, no, 2 floors down. Else, good information, there's a Herald right up and. Picked an odd vote from me, but it's okay, it's good. It was fun.
I find that out there would be one of those.
God, anyway, that's my report.
Okay, Commissioner Hagan.
Oh, man. I had 2 things, both from the library. One, that the library won the Future Focused Award. It is the highest level award that the library could have won. They have to meet the standards of developing and excelling library. So they won the Future Focused level. And the second thing was that Erin, the children's director, won the North Dakota Library Association's 2023 Librarian of the Year. One of the library.
Cool for her.
Boy, that's.
Or him.
Yes.
But,
That's right.
All right. Commissioner Peach.
The Grand Forks County Human Service Zone Advisory Committee met today. Just a bit of fact, we had been down to about 150 or 160 children that had been in foster care. And that number unfortunately has jumped up to almost 200 again. So it's the time of the year, kids are back to school, more people are seeing children in public that have concerns. And so that's something that was discussed today. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Hagan.
Well, I was on the trip to the Pentagon last week, and it's interesting that each and every one of the meetings that we had, it was very clear they completely knew what was going on in Grand Forks. Maybe some minor details enough, but the first one we met with was a 3-star general, his name was Slice. He is being held up like all the other top ranking people are, getting a promotion that will make him the vice chief of the airport. The airport's chief of staff will be general, or is general Alvin already. And the gentleman will be the vice chief. And he knew all about Grand Forks. And Grand Sky is the thing that gets everyone's attention. But of course, the base has also been transformed over the last 25 years. And it can handle anything that would need to come here. You know, if there's a hurricane, they need to move a wing of bombers out of the way, they can do it right here. And everybody seems to know that. They also, more than a few of them said, it is a pleasure to have Grand Forks come and a community visit. First of all, you don't come in a group of 20 where you're fighting with each other because you've got this base, you've got this base. North Dakota has a very good reputation. We've got a small congressional delegation. They work together, and they work together with us. So it was an extremely good trip. And the base isn't going anywhere. You couldn't quite tell us what the secret mission is, but it might be coming, but we'll find out if and when.
Or did they?
That's all I have, that's all I did.
Okay.
I'm talking to the best time.
All right. We have our weekly meetings out at the Correctional Center and Youth Assessment Center construction. If you haven't been out there lately, boy, the walls are up. I mean, it's coming along. I think the El Nino is working on our behalf right now, and they're putting a lot of concrete and steel in there, so. And then the Association of Counties, I thought that was a very, very positive meeting. I thought Commissioner Hagan and Rusted were there also. It was very informative. They really think a lot of Grand Forks. Talked about Grand Sky and the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and We got a tour of, the courthouse and they love history. They love the dome, right?
You know, those fights?
Yeah. No.
I mean, it's long.
No, and I mean, we've been fortunate this year, we have not had a lot of rain, so, the courts are being able to be held up on the third floor, so. It was a positive thing, so. Other than that, that's all I've got, so. Any unfinished? Any correspondence?
We do not.
Commissioner Hagan,
Make a motion to adjourn.
seconded by Commissioner Rustad, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Bye.
All same sign, motion carried.
You got the keyboard?
I do.
Oh, there it is.
Got it.